Hi, I'm Charles Hatley, and this is Rebecca Malone, Malone Hatley PC, where we truly are your partner through divorce. One of the questions that we get a lot from our Richmond, Virginia clients is, what do I need to be aware of in my custody and visitation cases? Richmond is a wonderful area, very family oriented. So we get a lot of custody and visitation cases in Richmond. And one of the questions that we frequently get is, how do I properly prepare for a custody and visitation case in Richmond, Virginia?
Sure. So the standard is the same throughout Virginia. We're always looking at what is in the best interests of the child. And so the Virginia Code actually defines some categories of what are we really looking at. And so some of those things are the age and the health of the parties, the children's age, health, mental capacity, sometimes the preference of the child if they're old enough. But really what the court is looking for is where is this child going to do the best, right?
Mhm.
What is going to be the most supportive environment for their needs, for whatever stage of life they're going through? That's the person that should have primary custody.
Yes, and when in Richmond, one of the things that I often see is you'll have one parent who wants to put the child in private school and incur the expense of putting a child in private school, and another parent who wants to keep the child in public school.
Mhm.
And Richmond has wonderful schools, so it's arguable that one school system is just as good as the private school. But how do you handle when one parent wants to put the child in private school and the other one doesn't agree with incurring that expense?
Right. So unfortunately, that's a situation that you're going to have to present to a court, and you're going to have to justify the reason why this school is a better fit. Maybe you have a child that is really talented at music and there's no opportunity to engage in a music program at this school, right? You're going to have to find reasons that are specific to this child other than just, well, the school rankings aren't that great or something along those lines, right? They're really crowded or something like that. We have to find some special reason why this particular child has needs that are going to be better served by going to this other school, and here's how this other school is going to provide for them in a better way. And then you also have to show that it's economically viable. If you're, maybe willing to basically bankrupt yourself to put this child in this school, the court's going to say that's not a good family decision, right? So it has to be somewhat economically viable for the family to be able to afford this now and into the future.
Yes, and that is a big assessment to make. Is just because you might be able to afford it due to how you can finagle child support doesn't mean that it's not going to ultimately be such a financial burden on both parents that it ends up lowering the quality of life for the children, which the court generally will not.
Right.
The other question that we generally see for our Richmond cases is, how does a guardian ad litem in the Chesterfield County Circuit Court?
hmm Sure. So just like in any custody petition in Virginia, the court is able to appoint a guardian ad litem, and this is an attorney who's appointed just to represent and advocate for the child. So they don't represent either party. They're there as purely the child's advocate, and they can do a lot more investigation than the court can independently. So they can go to the school and talk to teachers, they can talk to therapists, doctors, other sorts of providers, and then they can go to the court and say, this is a recommendation based on my investigation, this is what would be in the best interest of the child. So they're not necessarily advocating for what the child wants, right? That's an important distinguisher here, because the child might be saying, I want to go live with dad, and the GAL says, no, it's in this child's best interest to go live with mom, right? So they can communicate the child's preference, but it doesn't mean that that's what they're going to be advocating for.
Mhm. And I'll be honest with GALs. Some parents feel like the GAL is against them. Other parents feel like because of gender that the other parent like, hey, the GAL is always against dads or GAL is always against moms.
Mhm.
I'll be honest. In my experience, especially in Richmond, the GALs tend to go with wherever the child has been and spent the most time during this process. And what I mean by that is we see people walk out of the house because they think it's the right thing to do. Right? Our marriage is over. I'm going to go live over here. I'm going to leave this parent with the children in the marital home. Well, it's very likely at that point, 6 months, 7 months down the road, the GAL is going to say, well, this parent has been with these children most of the time, and I'm going to continue that. We're not going to put these children through another change to move them back with the parent that left the house.
Right.
And, when you have custody and visitation issues in Richmond, I always advise people, especially in Richmond, be careful on moving out of the house. Don't move out of the house before you have some sort of agreement in place. If you or someone is going through a custody visitation battle in Richmond, Virginia, and you're wanting more advice like this, give on Hatley PC a call and see the difference that a partner can make in your case for your children.